Rutgers stays alive. Okay, so Rutgers gets a win against Maryland at home, 35-20 to stay bowl eligible. And it's always good getting a win. We'll go through some of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we did defeat a peer, which is not always the case, but we defeated what some consider a rival. I don't think we're there just yet. With a balanced offense and productive, despite the defense once again getting gashed early and often in the run game, and they did improve in the second half, made adjustments and got better, which is rarely the case. So there were some good things to take out of this game. So we played a balanced game with all the units playing well, or well enough to beat a very mediocre Maryland program. But that kind of stuff typically eludes us. And even though it's always good to get a win in conference, I'm not throwing bouquets. Our wins, our Power 4 wins, Big Ten wins, always come against losing programs. So Maryland's 4-5. They'll probably lose to Illinois and Michigan, and then probably beat Michigan State in their last game of the year. So our best win will, come against, a 5-7 Maryland team. And last year we had one win against team with a Big Ten team with a winning record. That was Minnesota, who was 7-5. So we're still in that pattern. A win is a win, but we're still in that pattern where, okay, we got the win against Maryland, who's now below 500. But we have Ohio State and Penn State, and that's going to be a daunting task despite Penn State's struggles. That being said, we won the way that we should have, and that's a positive, but does it propel us forward? We'll see. In my preview, let's go through it. In my preview, I said if we were going to beat Maryland, that we were going to have to be balanced on offense. We were going to have to run it and throw it downfield, because Maryland's pass defense was pretty good. And they got a couple picks yesterday. Yes, one was a deflected pass, and the other one, okay, maybe it wasn't, it was kind of a throwaway pass. Nonetheless, Maryland had a good pass defense with a lot of turnovers, a lot of picks, but their run defense wasn't great. And their time of possession, because they had an inefficient passing offense, wasn't good either. So if we can control the ball, running, and we ran on the first 5 plays on our first drive, but also take our shots downfield with our guys, then we had an opportunity to beat Maryland. They must have heard me, because they did that and they executed it pretty well. And the big surprise of the day was Taj White got the start. So, what looked like it might have been a good scenario, with his injury, he was back. And that probably helped develop some chemistry and rhythm and productivity on offense. So we were balanced, like I said, 229 yards passing, 256 yards rushing, led by a record day by ANTWAN. 41 rushes and 241 yards. And that's the third most ever in Rutgers, and the third most in the NCAA this year. And got to say, on that first drive, into Maryland territory, ANTWAN actually looked like Kyle. By the way, I forgot this the last time. Congratulations on Kyle getting a leading in his first start. Yes, it was the Bengals, but had 176 yards rushing. So good on him. We've said all along he's going to be that guy. He's a 7th-round pick, and he's going to grind away. Before you know it, this is a guy that people think came out of nowhere to lead their team, and that's exactly what's happening halfway through the season. So, with the 41 carries by ANTWAN, the most since Savon Huggins and Jawan Jameson, which I kind of forgot about that. Savon Huggins, big 4 or 5-star recruit coming out of St. Peter's, and you thought, hey, we got the big dog as running back, and it didn't quite pan out for him. Nonetheless, he had a night of 41 carries, which I didn't really remember. So on that first drive going into Maryland territory, ANTWAN had that Kyle kind of run where it looks like he's going to grind out, 3 or 4 yards, and then before you know it, he slips through the pack and he's dragging guys with him for 7, 8, 9 yards, and that was a classic Kyle and now ANTWAN run. So good on ANTWAN having just a fabulous game. And ATHAN, the volume of passes, it was only 13 of 20, but he passed for 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I think that gives him 17 and 7 touchdowns to interception on the year. Second year in a row, we've had a quarterback over 2,500 yards, which we haven't done since Mike Teal. Wow. Mike Teal wasn't a high completion percentage guy either. It was like barely over 50%. Nonetheless, after the game, Coach praised ATHAN for his leadership when asked about how much ATHAN has meant. And he said when ATHAN got here, he didn't want to, be the guy that just wanted to get along with everybody and be like. He just went to work and put in the work, and that's why he's at where he is now, and he's very happy about that. But ANTWAN, 41 rushes, 240 yards, a long of 34 and a touchdown. Ian had 5 catches, 88 yards, 3 touchdowns. KJ, 2 catches, only 2 catches, but almost 70 yards, 69 yards. DT, 4 for 56 and a touchdown. Offensively, we were not just good in certain areas, and we talked about how, if we're going to be a better, more productive team and score more, we have to be good in a lot of different areas and not just 1 or 2. We were 8 for 12 on first down, 4 for 6 in the red zone after, I think, what were we, 5 for 13 or 5 for 16 before that. So that's positive. And we had 25 first downs, and Maryland only had 14. So again, we're talking about balance, not about artificially having the same amount numbers statistically, but being able to execute in all phases of the game. Defense. In my preview, I talked about how if Rutgers won the coin toss, they should elect to take the ball. They won the coin toss and elected to defend. And sure enough, second play of the game, it was just, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. Malik Washington off the edge. Defense going one way, he's going the other, 73 yards touchdown, and I've been saying this all year. This is a guy that statistically doesn't run the ball a lot, but he absolutely, positively has that capability, and if you thought Luke Altmaier was going to exploit us on the edge, that's what Malik Washington did. And we got gashed early and often in the run game for a team that was ranked, 132nd in rushing. Happened against Illinois. It happened against Purdue, where they weren't great rushing teams and they gashed us, and Minnesota probably watched the film on that. And they exploited it. They had over 300 yards in the first half. DeJuan Williams had 14 for 64. By the way, Washington missed him wide open on a pass that probably should have went a long way nonetheless. Malik Washington, 8 rushes, 164 yards and a touchdown. Nolan Ray, 5 rushes, 77 yards. And they had 305 total yards rushing and 135th ranking. Their longest rush of the year till yesterday was 28 yards. 28 yards was their longest rush. They had runs of 20, 53, and 73. But, like against Purdue, we gave up big chunks in certain spots, and then we made enough plays the rest of the way and actually did a pretty good job keeping Maryland under 100 yards in the second half after getting over 300 in the first half. They averaged, we still gave up over 400 yards to a team averaging about 333 yards. And 3 points, more importantly. And we didn't get gashed with big plays. Maryland had an opportunity to get back in it. They were down 8 points, and they were at the 20. And I was kind of picturing in my head, okay, is this going to be a drive? They're going to make some big plays, and we came up with a couple of stops. Nonetheless, defensively, we did play better. Second half of the game, later in the game, Jet Elad had a pick. O'Neal was active. He's starting to pick up steam now. He's starting to become a bit of a force. We had a couple 4th down stops. We had a little luck. Maryland shooting themselves in the foot. A face masking penalty by an offensive lineman on 4th down. But the defensive line had 5 tackles for loss. Now we had 0 sacks, none. But we had enough pressures, whereas in the past we always got beat when we would pressure and not get there. We forced Malik Washington into some bad throws, some mistakes, and we talked about this in the preview. Maryland has one of the least efficient passing games in the country. They pass for a lot of volume, but they have a very low completion percentage rate, and their average yards per target, per reception, not very good, like 120th in the country. So we did enough to win in that category. We're still going to need help, and when Julian Sain when we go to Ohio State, just saying that there's going to be a different kind of experience. That being said, Washington, 15 of 28, held them for less than 100 yards, 98 yards, a touchdown, and interception by Jet Elad. It was a pleasure to watch a game where you didn't see wide receivers running wild open all over the place. And guys not being in the position, being in the wrong position, not taking the right angle, yada, yada, yada. So we did what we had to do. Getting a Big Ten win is always good. We need to up our game and beat teams like Minnesota, like Iowa. Those were winnable games to even think about getting to the next step and beating the top tier. So I'm not doing cartwheels. Maryland has a losing record. They're 4-5. They're likely to be 5-7 by the end of the year. And it's going to come down. Everybody's looking forward to Penn State. Mike from Night Report and those guys, Richie and Alec. They were joking, say, hey, let's just forfeit the Ohio State game and prepare for Penn State. Penn State is not as winnable or easy as a game as you might think, despite their troubles. And to put all the eggs in the Penn State basket can be a little bit dangerous. Even if we go into Ohio State and we lose, I don't know, 45-10, I don't want to excuse or justify a loss, but that wouldn't be terrible if we can come back home and grit out a close win against the Penn State team, 24-21, something like that. So we're spinning our wheels in this thing where, and I've said this over and over and over ad nauseum, how we beat the worst of the Power 4 and Big Ten teams, and we beat FCS teams, and we struggle with our peers and struggle with everybody else. And so even though we got the win, I'm not going to overreact to what it is that we have and where we're going. Obviously, Ohio State is going to be a huge task, and it will likely result in a deflating loss. Penn State will not, despite being 3-6, will not be a check-the-box win or potential win that many people think it could be. They'll likely beat Michigan State. It'll be a good game against Nebraska. That should be a close game, a good game. Then, like us, that last game will be for bowl eligibility. So if they beat Nebraska, beat Michigan State, they're 5-6. We lose to Ohio State, we're 5-6. And this game can mean a lot for both programs for kind of different reasons. So if they lose to Nebraska and, they're 5-6 coming into our game, I should say, what is it? Do the quick math here. 4, 5, 4. If they're 4-6, right? Or 5-6. Or if they lose both games. If they're 3-6, they lose both games, and they're 3-8. They're not going to have much to play for. They may be flat. They might be deflated. Or if they go 1-1 and they're 4-7 and they don't have, the best they can do is 5-7. They also might be deflated. They're on a 6-game losing streak right now, but they lose a lot of close games. Their losses are close. Double overtime to Oregon. They have 4 losses by 5 points or less, and they're all like last-minute late losses. That loss to Indiana yesterday was epic. When Indiana had the ball, 80 yards to go, 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, I'm like, they're not going to do this, are they? And they did it with a fantastic catch in the back of the end zone. That being said, not going to be an easy win. Penn State, more talented than us. Grunkemeyer was not bad yesterday. He had a pretty solid game. So this will be, if Penn State is 5-6 and we're 5-6, despite 2 teams with 2 losing records, this could be a game that people show out for. And hopefully it turns out to be a win for Rutgers, but we're not going to jump ahead just yet. It is right now it's going to be bye week, second bye week, and then Ohio State season. Yes, Greg Schiano gets some extra time to prepare, but I'm sorry to say I don't think it will matter much. So despite a decent win and a Maryland team we haven't beaten at home since 2017, and Tour's baby brother was carving us up. Mike Loxley, after the game, sounded eerily like Greg Schiano. This is a young team, a really young and inexperienced team, and we have to develop, and we're developing guys, and they're not quite there yet. He's in his 7th year. If Maryland winds up being, what are they, 4-5 now? So if they wind up being 5-7, he's likely gone. And it's no accident that both Maryland and Rutgers are at the bottom of the Big Ten when it comes down to wins since 2020. Both teams with 15, and there's not a lot of benchmark wins in there. And so, all that being said, we're still a frustrating team. We watch Wisconsin, who's just not been very good at all. No offensive productivity. They beat Washington 13-10. Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman were not good. And this team ran us out of the building. Iowa, the other unbelievable game was Iowa and Oregon. And I said before that game, don't be shocked if it's a rock fight. Yes, it's Oregon. But Iowa just drags people down to their level. Not unlike, the Iowa basketball teams of the past. They just want you to play ugly, and they did. And Oregon squeezes out a last-second field goal to beat Iowa 18-16 in a typical Iowa rock fight game. Again, Dante Moore wasn't good. A lot of Heisman first quarterback taken in the draft next year kind of buzz. He wasn't good. He's had some games that he hasn't been great. Even Purdue yesterday was competing early against Ohio State, 3-0 going into the second quarter, and then Ohio State scores 24 points in the second quarter. 34-10 win for Ohio State is kind of a respectable loss for Purdue. I know Politi was talking about, Purdue only lost 34-10. Maybe there's some hope for us. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You don't want a team as talented as Ohio State to go into game thinking they're being disrespected, because they'll just take it out on us like Oregon did. So we're still in our pattern. Yes, good. We got the win. Go be competitive against Ohio State and then beat Penn State at home. I think if you want to look at the positive side, we talked about beating Penn State. Penn State has lost a lot of late close games. But I think we have a better offense than the teams that they've lost to. Iowa, Northwestern, UCLA. I think we have better offenses. So if we make plays like we did against Maryland, whose pass defense is actually pretty good, the fact that we only gave up one sack was good news for the offensive line. We talked about how Taj White being back and Tyler Needham moving back over to the left probably solidified things. But we're going to need to get that balance and productivity against Penn State. Now, running against Penn State for 256 yards is going to be a tall task. But if you could rush it well enough to provide some balance and protect the passing game, be able to throw it downfield, and we pull out a late 24-21 win against Penn State, and we wind up 6-6. We get to a bowl game. We go to the Bronx, and we're 7-6. It's something on paper and something you can talk to recruits about. We beat Maryland. We beat Penn State. We got to a bowl game. Third year in a row, we're 7-6 and gone to a bowl, winning 2 out of 3 bowl games. So there is still a little bit of hope, but we're going to have to execute. When you do a good job of opening the holes and protecting ATHAN, we have pretty good chances. ATHAN is having the kind of year that we said last year. If he had passing over 60%, I think he's around 62, 63. And his touchdown interception ratio is pretty good, and he gets the ball downfield, and we're able to run it with our guys. We stand a chance against Penn State. Now, Penn State's defense is pretty good, But like we said, if they go into that game and they're 4-7, they really have nothing to play for. Maybe they're having younger guys play, second team, third team. They want to get a look at some guys. Some guys are going to sit out because they want to declare, whatever the case might be. There's an opportunity there. Would I storm the field if we won? No. But you beat a very talented program, a name brand program that everybody will say, well, yeah, you beat them, but they were 4-7. They sucked. Nonetheless, it's something that you need to get down on paper, in the box score, and have something to build upon against name brand programs going forward. So even though this season's schedule, we all talked about at the beginning how it was going to be much tougher with Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. It was the Iowas and the Minnesotas and the Illinois of the world that gave us a problem. We couldn't beat teams that were sort of middling, and had we taken one of those games, both of those games, this would have been a different type of season. So, ending up 7-6 with a bowl win would, before the season start, would have been seen as a positive. I think a lot of the betting markets had us like at 5.5 wins, which I really didn't see. All you had to do was win one or two toss-up games, and you get to 6 wins. Nonetheless, everybody enjoy the win, enjoy the weekend. It's going to be cold this week. I think there's going to be some snow in Chicago for Kyle Monangai today. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you the next time.